The blazing Arizona sun beat down mercilessly as Olivia Nolan stumbled along the dusty road leading into Copper Creek, her once fine dress torn and stained, her lips cracked from thirst. The year was 1878, and she had been traveling for 3 days straight, fleeing a past that threatened to consume her entirely. Copper Creek appeared before her like a mirage, wooden buildings shimmering in the heat. Olivia's vision blurred, dark spots dancing before her eyes. She had come so far, survived so much, but her strength was failing her now when she needed it most. The wooden sign indicating Dr. Samuel Wilson, physician, was the last thing she saw before her legs gave way beneath her. Garrett Xavier had just finished tying his chestnut stallion to the hitching post outside the doctor's office when he spotted her, a young woman in a dusty blue dress, swaying dangerously as she approached. Without hesitation, he lunged forward, his strong arms catching her slim form before she hit the ground. The weight of her unconscious body settled against his chest as he cradled her close, her auburn hair spilling over his arm. "Doc Wilson." Garrett shouted, his deep voice carrying across the street as he kicked at the doctor's door with the toe of his boot. "Got an emergency here." The door swung open to reveal Samuel Wilson, a man in his 50s with kind eyes and a salt and pepper beard. "Bring her in, quickly," he instructed, stepping aside. Garrett carried Olivia into the doctor's office, laying her gently on the examination table. Her face was pale beneath the dirt and grime of travel, but he couldn't help noticing her delicate features, the gentle curve of her cheekbones, the fan of her lashes against her skin. "What happened?" Dr. Wilson asked, already examining his new patient. "Don't know," Garrett answered, removing his hat and running a hand through his dark hair. "I was just tying up my horse when she collapsed right in front of the office. Never seen her before. Dehydration, exhaustion?" Dr. Wilson murmured, lifting one of Olivia's eyelids gently. "Possibly hasn't eaten in days. She's been through something terrible by the look of it." Garrett frowned, taking in the woman's torn dress and the bruises on her wrists. "Looks like she's been running from something, or someone," the doctor added grimly. "Well, whoever she is, she needs rest and care. Could you fetch some water from the pump out back?" Garrett nodded and headed out to the water pump. He shouldn't get involved in whatever trouble this woman had brought to Copper Creek, but something about her stirred his protective instincts. As the town's most respected rancher, he had responsibilities, a reputation to uphold. Getting tangled in a stranger's problems wasn't wise. Yet, as he returned with the water, he found himself lingering, watching as Dr. Wilson coaxed a few sips between the woman's parched lips. "You don't need to stay, Garrett," the doctor said, noticing his hesitation. "I'll take care of her." "I know, Doc," Garrett replied, settling his hat back on his head. "But I'd appreciate it if you'd let me know when she wakes up. Just want to make sure she's all right." The doctor gave him a knowing look. "I'll send word to Double X Ranch when she's conscious, though I'd wager that might not be until tomorrow." Garrett nodded his thanks and departed, mounting his stallion with practiced ease. As he rode back to his ranch outside of town, his thoughts remained with the mysterious woman who had literally fallen into his arms. Olivia awoke to unfamiliar surroundings, her heart racing with panic until her eyes focused on the medical charts and supplies that identified the room as a doctor's office. She tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness forced her back down. "Easy now," a gentle voice cautioned. An older man with kind eyes approached her bedside. "I'm Dr. Wilson. You collapsed outside my office yesterday. You're safe here." "Yesterday?" Olivia's voice was barely a whisper. "How long have I been asleep?" "Nearly 18 hours, Dr. Wilson replied, offering her a cup of water. "You were severely dehydrated and exhausted. Can you tell me your name?" Olivia hesitated, fear flickering across her face. "Olivia," she finally said. "Olivia Nolan." "Well, Miss Nolan, you're going to be just fine with some rest and proper nourishment." Dr. Wilson checked her pulse. "There's someone who's been asking after your health, the man who caught you before you fell." Name's Garrett Xavier, owns the biggest cattle ranch in these parts. Olivia tensed. He's been asking about me. Don't worry, Dr. Wilson reassured her, noting her anxiety. Garrett's a good man. One of the best in Copper Creek. He seemed genuinely concerned. Before Olivia could respond, a knock sounded at the door. Dr. Wilson excused himself to answer it, and Olivia heard a deep voice that sent an inexplicable warmth through her. When the doctor returned, he was accompanied by a tall man with broad shoulders, dark hair, and the most piercing blue eyes Olivia had ever seen. He removed his hat as he approached, revealing a handsome face bronzed by the sun. "Miss Nolan, this is Garrett Xavier," Dr. Wilson introduced. "Madam," Garrett said with a respectful nod. "Glad to see you're awake. You gave us quite a scare." "Thank you for your help, Mr. Xavier," Olivia replied softly, pulling the blanket higher as if to shield herself. "Just doing what anyone would," Garrett said, though they all knew that wasn't true. Not everyone would have cared enough to catch a falling stranger. "Mr. Xavier has offered you a place to recuperate," Dr. Wilson explained. "His housekeeper, Mrs. Perkins, could look after you until you're fully recovered." Alarm flashed across Olivia's face. "That's very kind, but I couldn't impose. It's no imposition," Garrett interrupted gently. "My ranch house has plenty of room, and Mrs. Perkins has been lamenting the lack of female company. You'd be doing me a favor, keeping her from fussing over me so much." Despite his light tone, Olivia sensed the underlying sincerity in his offer. Still, she hesitated. "You don't know anything about me, Mr. Xavier." "I know you needed help, and I was there to give it," Garrett replied simply. "The rest can wait until you're ready to share it." Olivia studied his face, searching for any sign of deception or ulterior motives, but found only genuine concern. With no money and nowhere else to go, she reluctantly nodded her agreement. "Very well, Mr. Xavier. I accept your offer, but only until I'm well enough to find work in a place of my own." The ghost of a smile touched Garrett's lips. "Of course. I'll return tomorrow with a wagon to transport you comfortably." After Garrett left, Dr. Wilson gave Olivia an appraising look. "You're fortunate, Miss Nolan. Garrett Xavier doesn't extend his hospitality lightly." "Why me, then?" Olivia asked, genuinely confused. The doctor shrugged. "Perhaps he sees something in you worth saving." The next day, true to his word, Garrett arrived with a wagon padded with quilts and blankets. Dr. Wilson helped Olivia outside, where Garrett waited to lift her into the wagon bed. "I can manage," Olivia protested weakly, but Garrett ignored her, his strong arms effortlessly raising her onto the makeshift bed. "Rest now," he instructed, tucking a blanket around her. "It's about an hour's ride to Double X Ranch." As they traveled, Olivia found herself studying Garrett's broad back as he drove the wagon. There was something reassuring about his quiet strength, the confident way he handled the reins. The landscape around them was breathtaking, rolling hills covered with sagebrush and cacti, distant mountains purple against the horizon. "It's beautiful," Olivia murmured, almost to herself. Garrett glanced back at her. "The territory's harsh but has its own kind of beauty. Takes a special kind of person to appreciate it." When they crested a hill, Olivia gasped at the sight before her. The Double X Ranch spread out across a valley, a large two-story house commanding the center, surrounded by barns, corrals, and bunkhouses. Cattle dotted the grasslands beyond. "Welcome to Double X," Garrett said, a note of pride in his voice. As they approached the main house, a plump woman with silver-streaked hair hurried onto the porch, wiping her hands on her apron. "Mrs. Perkins," Garrett called, bringing the wagon to a stop. "Our guest has arrived." The housekeeper bustled forward, her kind face creased with concern as she saw Olivia. "Oh, you poor dear. Let's get you settled right away." Once again, Garrett lifted Olivia from the wagon, carrying her into the house despite her protests. He followed Mrs. Perkins upstairs to a sunlit bedroom decorated in soft yellows and creams. "This room gets the morning light," Mrs. Perkins explained as Garrett gently placed Olivia on the bed. "Best for healing, my mother always said." Thank you both, Olivia said, overwhelmed by their kindness. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. No need for that kind of talk, Mrs. Perkins clucked. Now I'll bring up some broth and tea, and then you're to rest, young lady. After the housekeeper bustled out, Garrett lingered awkwardly by the door. If you need anything, just ask Mrs. Perkins. I'll be around the ranch most days, but I'll check in on you. Mr. Xavier, Olivia called as he turned to leave. Why are you doing this for me? Garrett paused, considering his answer carefully. When I was 16, I was caught in a blizzard miles from home. A family of strangers took me in, nursed me back to health, never asked for anything in return. He met her eyes steadily. Sometimes people just need a helping hand, Miss Nolan. That's all there is to it. With that, he departed, leaving Olivia to wonder about the man who had saved her life and now offered her sanctuary. The days that followed established a gentle routine. Olivia regained her strength gradually, first venturing from her bed to the chair by the window, then to short walks around the upper floor. Mrs. Perkins fussed over her constantly, bringing nourishing meals and cheerful conversation. Garrett kept his distance, respecting her privacy, though Olivia often caught glimpses of him from her window directing ranch hands, training horses, or simply standing on the porch at sunset, surveying his land. There was something captivating about his quiet confidence, the way the Cowboys respected him without fear. A week after her arrival, Olivia felt strong enough to join the household for dinner. Mrs. Perkins helped her dress in a simple blue calico dress that the housekeeper had altered from her own daughter's clothing. Mr. Xavier will be pleased to see you up and about, Mrs. Perkins commented as she brushed Olivia's hair. He asks after you every evening, does he? Olivia asked, surprising herself with the flutter of pleasure the thought gave her. When she entered the dining room, Garrett rose immediately from his chair, his expression warming at the sight of her. Miss Nolan, it's good to see you on your feet. Thanks to your hospitality, Olivia replied, allowing him to seat her at the table. Dinner was a pleasant affair, with Mrs. Perkins doing most of the talking, regaling Olivia with stories of the ranch's early days. Garrett remained mostly quiet, though his eyes often returned to Olivia's face when he thought she wasn't looking. After the meal, Garrett surprised her by asking, would you care to sit on the porch a while? The evenings are cool this time of year. They settled into rocking chairs, a respectful distance between them, watching as the sun painted the western sky in shades of gold and crimson. The comfortable silence between them stretched, broken only by the distant lowing of cattle and the creak of the rocking chairs. Will you tell me what brought you to Copper Creek, Miss Nolan? Garrett finally asked, his voice gentle but direct. Olivia tensed, her hands gripping the arms of her chair. It's not a pleasant story, Mr. Xavier. Few of our stories out here are, he replied, his gaze fixed on the horizon. But sometimes sharing the burden makes it lighter. Perhaps it was the peaceful evening or the fact that she owed him the truth after all his kindness, but Olivia found herself speaking. I was engaged to a man named Edward Blackwell in San Francisco. He came from a wealthy family, and my father, a struggling merchant, thought the match would secure my future. Her voice grew quieter. Edward seemed kind at first, charming even, but after our engagement, I began to see another side of him, cruel, possessive. Garrett remained silent, giving her space to continue. I tried to break the engagement, but Edward threatened my family. Then one night at a dinner party, I overheard him discussing a business deal with my father, illegal dealings that had ruined several families. Olivia's hands trembled slightly. When Edward realized I'd overheard, he tried to force himself on me. Garrett's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. I managed to escape and went to the authorities, but Edward's family has influence with the police. They didn't believe me. In fact, they were going to arrest me for theft. Edward claimed I'd stolen jewelry from his mother. Olivia took a shuddering breath. I had no choice but to run. I took what little money I had and headed east. I thought Arizona territory would be far enough. Is that why you were afraid when you woke at the doctor's? Garrett asked quietly. You thought Edward had found you, Olivia nodded. He's not the type of man who forgives what he sees as betrayal. I'm afraid he might still be looking for me. Garrett was silent for a long moment, processing her story. Finally, he said, You're safe here, Miss Nolan. No one will harm you on Double X land. I can't stay forever, Olivia reminded him, though the thought of leaving brought an unexpected pang. Once I'm fully recovered, I need to find work, make my own way. There's no rush, Garrett insisted. And when you're ready, I'm sure we can find suitable work for you in Copper Creek. The school teacher mentioned needing an assistant. Olivia smiled gratefully. You've been kinder than I deserve, Mr. Xavier. Garrett, he corrected her. If we're sharing confidences, I think we can use first names, Olivia. The sound of her name on his lips sent a pleasant warmth through her. Garrett, then. As the weeks passed, Olivia grew stronger, both physically and emotionally. She began helping Mrs. Perkins with household tasks, finding comfort in the routine of domestic life. She also discovered a talent for bookkeeping when Garrett mentioned difficulties with the ranch accounts. These are remarkably well organized, Garrett said one evening as he reviewed the ledgers she'd updated. Where did you learn accounting? My father taught me, Olivia explained. He believed women should understand business matters even if society disagreed. Your father sounds like a wise man, Garrett commented, his admiration evident. The ranch could use someone with your skills permanently. Their eyes met across the desk, and something unspoken passed between them, possibility, potential, perhaps even desire. Olivia looked away first, her cheeks warming. I should help Mrs. Perkins with supper, she murmured, rising from her chair. Garrett stood as well, their hands brushing as he returned the ledger to her. The brief contact sent a jolt through them both, and for a moment, neither moved, caught in the sudden awareness of their proximity. The spell was broken by Mrs. Perkins calling from the kitchen, and Olivia hurried away, her heart racing with emotions she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a very long time. That night, unable to sleep, Olivia wandered downstairs for a glass of water. She was surprised to find Garrett still awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. Couldn't sleep, he asked, rising to pour her a glass of water. Too many thoughts, Olivia admitted, accepting the glass with a grateful smile. Garrett nodded in understanding. The ranch has been my life for so long that sometimes I forget there's more to existence than cattle and land disputes. Is that what keeps you awake tonight? Ranch concerns, a corner of his mouth lifted in a half-smile. Not exactly. The night seemed to wrap around them, creating an intimate space where truths could be spoken more freely. Why have you never married, Garrett? Olivia asked, surprising herself with her boldness. He considered the question seriously. I came close once, about 5 years ago. Elizabeth was her name, daughter of a banker in Tucson. Pretty, well-educated. What happened? She visited the ranch one summer and thought she loved the idea of being a rancher's wife. By winter, she realized the reality was far different from her romantic notions. Garrett's expression held no bitterness, only acceptance. She couldn't bear the isolation, the harsh conditions. She returned to Tucson and married a lawyer. I'm sorry, Olivia said softly. Don't be. She was right to leave. We would have made each other miserable. Garrett studied Olivia's face in the lamplight. The Arizona Territory requires a certain strength of character. Not everyone possesses it. And you think I do? Olivia asked, curious about his assessment. I know you do, he replied simply. You survived your journey here. You're rebuilding your life from nothing. That takes courage few possess. His words warmed her more than they should have. Thank you for seeing strength in me when I couldn't see it in myself. Their conversation continued into the early hours, moving from personal histories to dreams and philosophies. Olivia found herself drawn to Garrett's straightforward honesty, his quiet intelligence, the way he listened as if her thoughts were precious gifts. When dawn began to lighten the eastern sky, they finally parted ways, both aware that something fundamental had shifted between them. The following days brought them closer still. Garrett began including Olivia in more aspects of ranch life, taking her on rides across the property, teaching her about cattle breeding, introducing her to the ranch hands and their families. She blossomed under his attention, her natural intelligence and quick wit earning the respect of everyone at XX. One evening, as they returned from visiting a new calf born in the north pasture, a ranch hand galloped toward them, his expression urgent. "Mr. Xavier." Riders coming looks like trouble. Garrett immediately tensed, his hand moving instinctively to the revolver at his hip. "How many?" "4 men, heavily armed. One's asking for a woman, says her name's Olivia Nolan." Olivia's blood ran cold. "Edward," she whispered, her face draining of color. Garrett's expression hardened. "Get back to the house," he instructed the ranch hand. "Tell the men to arm themselves. No shooting unless I give the order, but I want a show of force." Turning to Olivia, his voice softened slightly. "Go with him. Stay inside with Mrs. Perkins." "Garrett, they're dangerous," Olivia protested, fear making her voice tremble. "Edward won't hesitate to hurt you." "This is my land," Garrett replied, his blue eyes steely with determination, "and you're under my protection. Now go, please." Reluctantly, Olivia rode back to the ranch house with the hand, looking back anxiously at Garrett's straight-backed figure as he remained in place, waiting to confront her pursuers. By the time Edward Blackwell and his hired guns reached the ranch house, they found themselves facing Garrett and 8 armed cowboys spread across the front of the property. Garrett stood front and center, his stance casual but his eyes alert. "This is private property," Garrett called out as the riders approached. "State your business." A well-dressed man with cold eyes and an artificial smile urged his horse forward. "My name is Edward Blackwell. I'm looking for my fiancée, Olivia Nolan. I have reason to believe she's here." "No fiancée of yours on this ranch," Garrett replied evenly. Edward's smile tightened. "She's a confused young woman who ran away after a misunderstanding. I've been searching for months to bring her home safely." "Seems to me a woman doesn't run hundreds of miles over a mere misunderstanding," Garrett observed, his tone deceptively mild. Edward's facade slipped slightly, revealing the anger beneath. "This is a private matter between myself and Miss Nolan. I suggest you produce her immediately." "Or what?" Garrett challenged, his hand resting casually near his gun. "I have documents from the San Francisco police," Edward said, producing an official-looking paper. "She's wanted for theft. Harboring a criminal is against the law, Mr. Xavier, Garrett Xavier." And those papers mean nothing in Arizona territory. From inside the house, Olivia watched through the window, her heart pounding. Despite Mrs. Perkins's attempts to keep her upstairs, she had crept down to witness the confrontation. Seeing Edward again brought back all her fear, but Garrett's unwavering presence gave her courage. Making a decision, Olivia straightened her shoulders and walked out onto the porch. "Olivia?" Edward called, his face lighting with false concern. "Thank God I've found you." "Your father has been beside himself with worry." "That's close enough," Garrett warned when Edward attempted to move forward. Olivia descended the porch steps, moving to stand beside Garrett. "My father knows exactly why I left, Edward. Your threats against him were quite clear." Edward's expression darkened. "You're being dramatic, darling. Come now, it's time to go home." "This is my home now," Olivia replied firmly, surprising herself with the conviction in her voice. "You heard the lady," Garrett said, his voice carrying across the yard. "I suggest you leave while you still can." Edward's face contorted with rage. "She belongs to me. I've spent good money tracking her across 3 states. "No woman belongs to any man," Garrett countered. "Now turn around and ride out, or my men will escort you off the property, and they won't be gentle about it." One of Edward's hired guns moved his hand toward his holster, but Garrett was faster, drawing and firing in one fluid motion. The gun flew from the man's hand, and he yelped in pain as blood spurted from his grazed fingers. "Next shot won't be a warning," Garrett stated calmly, his gun still raised. Edward glared at them both, his composure completely gone. "This isn't over," he hissed. "I'll return with the law." "The sheriff in Copper Creek is a personal friend," Garrett informed him. "He'll be very interested to hear about coercion, attempted assault, and the illegal business dealings Miss Nolan overheard." Realizing he was outmatched, Edward wheeled his horse around. "You've made a powerful enemy today, Xavier." "Wouldn't be the first time," Garrett replied, unimpressed. "Don't come back to Double X, Blackwell. You won't leave on horseback next time." They watched as Edward and his men rode away, dust clouding behind them. Only when they disappeared from sight did Garrett holster his weapon and turn to Olivia, concern etched on his features. "Are you all right?" Olivia nodded, though her hands were trembling. "I never thought I'd have to face him again." "He won't give up easily," Garrett warned. "Men like Blackwell consider themselves above the law." "I know," Olivia admitted. "I should leave. I've brought danger to your door." Garrett shook his head firmly. "You're not going anywhere. Double X is your home now, just like you told him." He hesitated, then added more softly, "Unless you don't want it to be." Their eyes met, and in that moment, Olivia saw everything Garrett wasn't saying aloud, that he wanted her to stay, not just for her safety, but because she had become essential to him in ways neither had anticipated. "I want to stay," she whispered. "More than anything." That evening, after the ranch had settled down and the men had been posted as guards in case Edward returned, Garrett found Olivia sitting on the porch swing, gazing up at the stars. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice gentle in the night air. Olivia moved over, making space for him on the swing. They sat in companionable silence for several minutes, the only sound the creaking of the swing chains and the distant chorus of crickets. "I telegraphed the sheriff in San Francisco," Garrett finally said. "An old friend from the war serves on the force there. He's been suspicious of the Blackwells for years but couldn't prove anything." Olivia turned to him, hope lighting her features. "You mean your testimony might be exactly what they need," Garrett confirmed. "It won't be easy and it might take time, but Edward Blackwell won't be able to threaten you much longer." Overcome with emotion, Olivia reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. "Thank you, Garrett, for everything." His fingers closed around hers, warm and reassuring. "I'd do far more to keep you safe, Olivia." The admission hung in the air between them, charged with meaning. Slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, Garrett raised his free hand to brush a strand of hair from her face. His touch lingered against her cheek, and Olivia leaned into it instinctively. "I never expected to find you," Garrett murmured, his voice rough with emotion. "When you collapsed that day in front of the doctor's house, I had no idea you'd change everything." "For me too," Olivia whispered. "You saved me in more ways than you know." The distance between them diminished as Garrett leaned closer, his eyes asking permission. Olivia answered by meeting him halfway, their lips touching in a kiss that began tenderly but quickly deepened with months of unspoken longing. When they finally parted, both breathless, Garrett pressed his forehead against hers. "I love you, Olivia Nolan. I think I have since that first day." Tears of joy sprang to Olivia's eyes. "And I love you, Garrett Xavier, more than I thought possible." Their second kiss sealed a promise between them of protection, partnership, and a future built together. 2 months later, Edward Blackwell was arrested in San Francisco based on evidence provided by Olivia and corroborated by several other victims of his schemes. His family's influence couldn't protect him from the mounting charges of fraud, coercion, and attempted assault. On a perfect autumn day, with golden leaves drifting from the cottonwoods along the creek, Olivia and Garrett were married in Copper Creek's small church. The entire town turned out for the celebration, along with all the ranch hands and their families. Mrs. Perkins wept openly as Olivia, radiant in a cream-colored gown, promised her life and love to Garrett. Dr. Wilson, who had treated her that fateful day, served as Garrett's best man, beaming proudly as the couple exchanged rings. At the reception held at Double X Ranch, Garrett pulled his bride away from the festivities for a moment alone on their favorite porch swing. "Happy, Mrs. Xavier?" he asked, his eyes crinkling with joy as he used her new name. "More than I ever dreamed possible," Olivia replied, nestling against him. "It seems impossible that just 6 months ago I was running for my life with no hope or future. And now?" Garrett prompted, his arm tightening around her shoulders. Olivia smiled up at him, her heart full to bursting. "Now I have everything: a home, a purpose, a man I love with all my heart. And a family that will grow," Garrett added softly, his hand moving to rest gently over her stomach in a question. Olivia covered his hand with her own, confirming what she had only just discovered herself. "Yes, come spring." The joy that bloomed on Garrett's face was everything she could have wished for. He gathered her close, kissing her with such tenderness that happy tears sprang to her eyes. "I never knew such happiness existed," he murmured against her hair. As the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and purple, Olivia reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From desperation and fear to love and hope, from a woman collapsed in the dust to the cherished wife of the man who had caught her before she fell. Sometimes, she thought, the worst moments of your life lead you exactly where you need to be. She had run from danger straight into the arms of love, finding her true home on the day she collapsed in front of a doctor's house in a small Arizona town. "I love you, Garrett Xavier," she whispered as music and laughter drifted from the celebration, "for catching me then and for catching me every day since. And I'll keep catching you," he promised, "for all the days of our lives." In the years that followed, the Double X Ranch prospered under their joint stewardship. Their family grew with the birth of 3 children who rode the range with their father and learned figures from their mother. Copper Creek flourished, with Olivia establishing a school where she taught both ranch children and those from town. The story of how they met became family legend of a desperate young woman who collapsed in front of the doctor's house, and the cowboy who lifted her before she hit the ground, changing both their lives forever.